I'm interested. What sparked your love for theatre?
So I think, it can't be denied that I come from a family of artists, right? So I always, every Christmas, my grandmother would make sure I'm standing in front of the family singing or entertaining them in one way or another.
As both a director and a playwright, how do you balance your vision with the collaborative nature of theatre?
Theatre in itself is very collaborative. It's a very difficult space to come into and just think you're going to tell people what to do.
What do you think, coming from your family and with a father like yours how has that impacted you in terms of the way you work?
My family told me very early that they are not going to just give me opportunities simply because they are in the industry.
Welcome to Cocktails Blurbs. I'm your host, Lindiwe Matlali. I am so excited to welcome MoMo Matsunyane. She is a powerhouse in African theatre. Her work speaks for itself. She may be coming from royalty in the film and theatre, but she has crafted her own path, and I can't wait for her to share her journey and the awards, all the multiple awards she has won, and her future. I see her as the future of theatre in Africa, and we really can't wait to see what you have in store. Welcome, Momo.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited. Ooh. This is so amazing. So, what I think when I saw your profile, I was so inspired, man. I'm like, you're so young and you've achieved so much, and also how grounded you are, right? I mean, we don't see you in social media doing things that kids your age, because I'm technically could be your mom. Kids your age do. I'm interested. What sparked your love for theatre?
So I think, it can't be denied that I come from a family of artists, right? So I always, every Christmas, my grandmother would make sure I'm standing in front of the family singing or entertaining them in one way or another. But I remember vividly this memory of myself at 6 years old in the school play. It was a preschool play. So I started school at like 5, so in grade 1. And I remember putting on this leotard. It was green, and I was playing a flower.
Wow.
In this play, and I just was like over the moon. And I remember the feeling of putting it on, and I was just like, I love this idea of transforming and becoming this other thing.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved being on the stage. I loved seeing my family in the audience, and it was just amazing. And I think from then on, I was just like, I want to keep wearing these different costumes, and I want to keep playing these different things. Wow. And later, and of course, then seeing my family in it, growing up on sets. I grew up after school being picked up by like a production manager and being taken to set and waiting for my father to finish rapping. And so I grew up seeing them within the craft and working, and it really inspired me. And it wasn't until, unfortunately, I went to a high school that had drama as a subject. And when we were choosing like subjects for varsity, my father asked me like, how serious are you about studying drama? And I told him, I couldn't be more serious. I'm serious as a heart attack. And then he was like, in that case, I would suggest you go study, because in my time, I didn't have the opportunity to go study drama formally. And so that's when I enrolled at Wits University and did my honors degree in performance and film and television.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, just even the fact that you went to school, right? Because most of the time I think in art, people in arts, they think that it's just a talent, right?
Yeah.
And we know that talent alone is not enough.
Yeah.
And if you want to be great and have a long career, education is really important so that you can be good at what you're doing and study people that have done. Actually, an interesting story. Your aunt was the first person who put me on on a magazine or any media actually.
Oh, wow.
And when she was the editor of the Oprah
Of O Magazine.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And I remember actually that is where everything started for me.
Oh.
Because everybody was like sort of interested, and all of a sudden I was somebody people wanted to talk to. And I marked my career from that moment of,
my
putting
goodness.
me in there when nobody knew who I was. So actually this makes it very special.
I'm getting emotional. That's beautiful.
Just, yeah.
It's
But
full circle. So
it's-
thank you for
yeah,
having me.
It's a full circle, and she didn't know who I was. I mean, it's not like
Wow.
we had met. I just got in, and I was like, oh, I'm at the Oprah magazine. I still have the because I kept it, so it's still there because it's the very
Beautiful.
first that I've ever been.
Incredible.
So yeah, when writing, what inspires you? And also, this is Cocktail and Blurbs.
Hello.
So we have to have
Hello.
a cocktail.
I mean,
Cheers.
cheers to us.
What would you say?
But you have to have a sip, though.
Yeah. After cheers. It's a sip.
Otherwise, it's bad luck.
Into zabelungu phela.
Yum.
So,
Yes.
what would you say is a cocktail that will represent when you work? Or rather, that you feel embodies your process, your creative process, or the spirit of your creative process?
Wow. Okay, wow. So I'm quite a fan of the Long Island iced tea. The ingredients, yes, are strong, but so am I.
Love that.
And when you so before you mix it, right at the bottom, there's like this lemon sweet taste. And I feel like that's actually the reward of the hard work. So I think if I were to describe my process as a cocktail, I would have to say probably the Long Island iced tea. It's hard, it's strong. After some time, you start to feel the effects of it. And that's when one needs rest, generally, because the industry is a lot. And I think theater is very demanding. So yeah, I would probably have to say a Long Island iced tea. Yes.
Nice.
But you were asking me about the writing process.
Yeah.
And sure, I think writing is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. I didn't even think I would end up as a writer one day. I was just like, I want to be a star, you know? But then as the industry would have it, after graduating from Wits, the idea one has of like being discovered, at least back then, being discovered and then suddenly going to Hollywood and being a movie star, right? When that wasn't happening, I was like, okay, so what now, right?
Yeah.
And then I collaborated with 3 other colleagues and friends of mine from Wits, and we created a sketch comedy group called Thanks, and that's where really the writer in me was born, because we started writing our own material, and then from then, I think independently, then I created my production company, because it was really hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard creating work. There was a lot of gatekeeping, a lot of opportunities not coming. Ubona nje ukuthi la ngirojiwe la, you know?
Yeah.
And so instead of kind of sitting in a pity party, I just decided, screw this, I'm going to create my own work.
Wow.
And so I started just writing my own stories, writing from a personal space. And after registering my production company, that's when I debuted Dick or Date, and then Unlearn, and now currently with my new work, Kalibitso la Moya. So that's just like the path I've been on.
Wow.
Yeah, but writing is very difficult, but
Yeah.
super rewarding. Especially when you have people you can trust and you can share your work with, and they give you
Yes.
honest feedback.
Yeah.
And say, la uyabeda,
Yeah.
la ayenzi sense,
Yeah,
ngicela ubuyele uyobhala futhi. So that helps as well, having a community that can help you through that.
Yeah. And I think, sometimes when somebody comes from a family like yours, right, the assumption is that Yonkindo has been laid out for you.
Oh my gosh.
You've seen last year we had this whole trending Nipple babies.
Yes,
As if,
yes,
these
yes,
kids would
yes,
just grow
yes.
up and having everything.
Yeah.
What do you think, coming from your family, and with a father like yours, and how has that impacted you in terms of the way you work? Because when you walk in, and I'm not gonna lie, myself too, as soon as she's Ukulani sent me and said, "Oh, it's MoMo Matsunyane," the first thing I thought of was your dad.
Right.
Right. And you've been working hard in how hard has it been to just sort of forge your own path and move away from
the family,
that shadow, because that's a huge shadow.
Hectic.
Yeah.
Hectic. It was very tough for me, and it's not the narrative people actually think it is. I think I used to get a lot of this growing up. Would say, "Oh, hey, I'm sure go easy for you." In fact, my family told me very early that they are not going to just give me opportunities simply because they are in the industry. So firstly, that created a complex within me, because then I felt like I wasn't good enough, and maybe they didn't think I was good enough, right? So then I also had to prove myself almost 10 times more than the average person, right? I'm walking into auditions and you do your profile. "Hi, my name is MoMo Matsunyane," and the minute I say my name, the person behind the camera is already either they're smiling or they're going, "Oh, umtanaga, that guy," right? So now I'm faced with that, where manje ikamalami is carrying the history of my father and my aunt.
Yes.
So it wasn't easy. It really wasn't easy, and it took a while. It took a while for people to actually, only once they started engaging with my work and meeting me on a personal level and realizing that, and going, "Oh my goodness, none of the opportunities that you've ever had in your entire career have come from your family, ever." And so it was tough in the beginning, because I really had to prove myself to people that, "No, ngiyakwazi uku-act, Hashem. Ngiyakwazi. It's not because of my family." And to also make them proud.
Yeah.
And I guess for them to also get to a place where they go, "She's not doing this because of us.
Yeah.
She's genuinely talented in it, but she also loves it," and then getting that support as well. So it definitely wasn't an easy journey.
Yeah, and being able to do it on your own, right?
That's
and
the
really
thing.
Forging your own
Yes.
path.
Yes.
And,
Young me would be like, "I didn't have to do it on my own because you guys were there." Right? But then older Momo is like, "But look what it's done. Look at what it's done for you. You've proven to yourself that you are worth the journey, because no one can walk your path for you."
No. Yeah.
And so to me, like, ngiziprovele ukuthi ngiyayithanda lento kakhulu futhi, and I can do it. With or without my family. Of course, I need their support.
Yeah,
But
everybody needs family, yeah.
You know what I mean? But like without them, like bangfaga. So I'm very proud of myself as well.
Yeah.
And to be an independent theater maker wasn't easy at all. I'd shoot
And the
something.
theater industry is hard.
Oh, my
it's not
goodness.
Like, it's not like New York Broadway.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
No, it's not. I would literally fund my own works through like shooting Mzansi Bioskop.
Yeah.
And then after I get that money, I'd be like, "Okay, sure, but for you, asiyenze any play." Literally, that's how tough it was. So it's nice to finally be at a place where people can call you and say, "We'd love for you to direct this thing."
Wow, yeah.
That feels amazing. So the hard work was definitely worth it.
Yeah. No, I'm so impressed. I mean, I always tell my kids as well, I'm like, "You know what? I'm preparing you for the day when I'm no longer there."
Yes.
Because sometimes it's like, "Oh, Mom, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just like, just sit and do your work and do all of that?" And I think when you are still young as a teenager, it's not easy to like, "Oh, why can't you help me?" And I think, I mean, I'm glad when I look at my kids, the way they work now, that to try to help them, oh my God, it's harder than, I don't know, getting an HIV test, I guess.
Right.
You offer your help, "No, I'm fine." "Do you need help?" "No, I'm fine." I'm like, it's okay to accept help. "Nope, I'm okay."
I'm okay.
Like, oh my God.
I've got this. Yeah.
As both a director and a playwright, how do you balance your vision with the collaborative nature of theater?
I think theater in itself is very collaborative. It's a very difficult space to come into and just think you're going to tell people what to do. you know. And hopefully you'd think that even in film or television, one has the space to share their vision, but it's not always the case, right? So when you are, as a writer, I saw in Hlakanyana, I was also acting in it. And I gave the process some time.
So you were Tyler Perry.
I was Tyler Perry.
Yeah, you were everything this shit out
babes, of listen. When I started my production company, all the plays I wrote, I also acted in and I produced. So sometimes you have to Tyler Perry it because kunzima, you know? But with Hlakanyana, I was acting and I was the head writer. And so there was a time where I had to just let the process happen. So the writer in me had to consciously understand that I have to let go of this and let the director and the cast do what they need to do with it until such a point where you feel like certain things are not being understood. Where then you have to say, as a writer, and say, "Oh, sorry, something. I think you're misunderstanding the intention of certain things." But that's also just to the benefit of the production, but also minding one's energy that like you're not hovering above everybody, and making sure that they kind of stick to what your vision is, right? Because once you give it to a cast or you give it to a director, it's no longer yours, right? As a director, I absolutely love working with a cast that is vocal artistically. So I want, because there are times now, as a director, it
looked nice in the
in my mind it was nice,
the imagination it was like,
and then you open it to the floor and say, guys, what do you think? And then you have these amazing ideas come up and then you go, let's try. I'm a firm believer in like trying things first before you say no. Like I'm not the kind of person, can we? And then I'm like, no. I'm always just like, before you knock it, let's get it on the floor. Sometimes we try and then after 2 minutes, you're good. Right? But I respect the artists I work with, whether they are younger than me or older than me. So I will, and I believe in giving people the platform to voice their own opinions. Art is very subjective, so it means something different to all of us, even if we are in the same process. And so it's of value to a production to have people contribute artistically. But it's also very important to shut out some of the noise. Because sometimes if you allow too many opinions into the space, it's very easy for the work to lose your vision or the integrity of what it is that you were actually trying to convey. So it's always important to go back to your instinct, look at what's been changing, and then take what you think will work. For the betterment of the production, and then lose the rest. Otherwise, uzoxakeka, and then your play is just an amalgamation of things ezingayenzi sense. So it's a tricky thing to navigate, but it's also so rewarding. It's so rewarding to work with people who contribute to the work that you're doing artistically. That's why when people hire me, like even to act or something, I'm always like, you're not just getting an actor. You're getting a writer, you're getting a director, you're getting a teacher. So like, can the fee also recognize that you are getting 1 in 4 people, right? But because I know that in the process, I'm going to contribute far more than just learning my lines and acting, you know?
And it's important, I mean, I think just also from, as a woman, right? And talking even with the research that we've done, a lot of the work that I do is also on the empowerment of women, and specifically in areas where there's not enough representation. And a big part is that women, we struggle to negotiate our fees because you feel like, you know, it's like, sometimes it's like, I think also in the industry, your industry is that they'll be like, there's a lot of other people, there's somebody always waiting to take, you know. So it becomes very difficult sometimes to actually negotiate your worth.
That's true.
And also it's also very difficult, well, not so much in the entertainment sector, I guess, but for us in the tech and in general in women, is that it's hard for us to say, you know what, I'm good at this.
And you're absolutely right. Like negotiating the fee, it was only something I started doing intentionally 3.5 years ago, where I was like, I'm actually going to start asking for the, like, email. When you've added like that extra 15,000 to your rate, and then, you know, and you're like, and then they're like, sure, all right, we will send you the contract with the revised, and you're like, all these years, I've been underplaying, undercharging.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's what we call in tech the imposter syndrome.
It
that
is.
we feel like
It is.
you're not worthy.
Absolutely.
Right, no matter how successful you are. And I'm taking this like coming back to, circling back to your awards. Yes. You have achieved remarkable success, right?
Thank you. And
I want to ask, which one of them have been meaningful to you? And question that I also want to add is, have they increased the bag, a little bit? Or you have multiple knocks on your door to say, hey, MoMo, multiple award-winning,
Girl, it's done nothing but increase my title list. Firstly, I feel like they're all worthy of being celebrated. Mm-hmm. We work in a very competitive space. In as much as it's not outrightly competitive, but we are all kind of secretly hoping and going, yo, I'm an lady nomination ya Puma. You're hoping that your name is going to be mentioned amongst those. You're hoping that whatever you've done that year will be acknowledged in some way or other, right?
By your peers.
By your
right?
peers. Yeah, because we are sebenza. We work really hard. We work really hard, and very often for not what we are worth being paid for. So I appreciate all the acknowledgements that I've ever received in my career. I think why the Standard Bank Young Artist Award, why it stands out of the rest, is because it comes with an opportunity to do the very thing that made you eligible to win.
Yes.
Eligible, rather, sorry, to win.
Yeah.
Right? So I've often thought, so for example, like I'm a Fleur du Cap, apuma nemali, right? But I'm a lady, I want a mali. They used to, but I want a mali. So we win these awards, so there's no financial incentive, right? But then an award like the Standard Bank Young Artist, at least you get a prize money, but you also get the opportunity to do the very thing that made you win. So you get the platform to put on your play at the National Arts Festival. If you're a theater winner, if you're a music one, you get to perform and you can release new music and album and take part in the Joy of Jazz things and whatever else that Standard Bank offers, right? So I would probably have to say they're all very meaningful. They definitely didn't outwardly contribute anything apart from me being able to say I'm an award winner.
Yes.
And having to make people understand that so that when they look at what I'm asking for in terms of payment, it feels justified. It almost justifies your rate.
Yeah.
But the most, I guess, tangible prize has come from the Standard Bank Young Artist.
Yeah, I mean, being able to come up and do basically what you want to come up with your own work.
Yes.
I mean, the platform and the support that comes with it.
Yes.
I mean, I can imagine that's something that is exciting. I mean,
it is, especially because it's in the main festival of the National Arts Festival, right? Usually we apply for the Fringe, and Fringe is expensive. Also, there were times when before COVID we were all just kind of like, is NAF still a thing?
You must tell us.
Is
now to Fringe, I'm thinking if Fringe.
So
for some of us who are not there, what do you mean?
No, you're right. You're right. So by Fringe, I mean like art that is on the outskirts of the mainstream, right? So the kind of work that independently I was creating. So my work as an independent theater maker is from the Fringe. So it's the one that is not commissioned. It's the one that you are rehearsing a garage.
Yes.
It's the one that doesn't have rehearsal space and a craft table and a this and a that and funding, right? So Fringe just generally means not mainstream. And most of the time self-funded and self-produced.
So indie kind of
indie,
music would be
very indie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this award now gives me an opportunity to be a part of the main festival And to have some sort of financial backing. I still have a lot of money to raise, in as much as Standard Bank has given me some money. There's still a lot more money to raise because creating plays is actually very expensive. And the crew and the cast, and when you just think, set, design, costumes, it's a whole thing. So now imagine I've got this financial support, but I still have to contribute find sponsors outside of that. So now can you imagine on the fringe where we are taking emails the same Bioscope?
In my former life, I worked for Mnet, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly.
So,
you know?
It can't even buy Uno.
No, it can't.
It hardly.
No.
A second hand now.
No.
So,
No, it can't.
So, as the head writer of the Hlakanyana musical, right? What was your experience like, and what challenges did you face in bringing the story to life?
It was very challenging because it was commissioned. And so with commissioned work, Hlakanyana was a collaboration between UJ Arts as well as a production company called Lindiwe Entertainment. And so we were part of like the workshopping process during lockdown. So we were doing a lot of online workshops for the story and some of the songs and all of that. Then we recorded the music for Hlakanyana the musical. And then we found out that UJ, finally also when the levels of lockdown opened up, we were then able to start rehearsing in person and putting it on the floor. But before the rehearsals, while we were busy online, after a few sessions, Lindiwe Entertainment kind of sent me an email and said, listen, your contribution in the workshopping process is so valuable, and we find you an asset in the process. We would love for you to please be the head writer. And of course, I was over the moon and super excited. And I said yes. And so I was commissioned to be head writer, but with 3 drafts of the work. But at the same time, so I go into my process based on what we already had. I reimagine the world. I start writing, and then we come back and we have a feedback session. Now, in the feedback session, you've got like 8 other people who are part of giving feedback. And how do you then try and fulfill or include all of this feedback into the work? So it links back to your question about your vision versus, or in a collaborative space, right? But when you're being commissioned, it feels like you have an obligation towards the institution.
Yes.
Right? Because there's a certain idea they want to fulfill with the musical. So it was very challenging. And some people wanted the musical to go that way, and some people wanted to go that way. But there were some things I had to be autonomous on and just like fight for and say, listen, Oksalayo, this is Intsomi. And in an Intsomi structure, this and this and this and this exists, and that and that and that and that. But they also hired me, and which wasn't a secret, that they wanted a black female perspective and voice within the story. So I had to make sure that even through the characters I'm writing, whether it's the character of the queen or the character of or the ancestors or the female ancestors, like understanding the point of view and the voice that these characters are going to have. So it was very challenging, but it was so rewarding. And with each draft, I also grew as a writer. I also understood what it means, because sometimes it's not about you. You know what I mean? It's not about you, like, especially when you're serving someone else's process. It's about fulfilling that. And it went on to be nominated for 14 Naledi Awards.
Wow.
And we won 8. And one of them was for me, for Best Supporting Actress in a Musical.
Wow.
So very excited. It was my first individual win for Naledi.
Wow.
So yeah, Hlakanyana was quite something.
Wow.
And it instilled a lot more confidence in myself as a writer as well. It's different when you're writing your own work. And then so when you're commissioned and you can still fulfill the brief, it's gratifying.
Yes, and there's somebody else who's a figure, I approve or not, right?
Exactly.
So that that's the humility that that you have to have. And,
Absolutely.
And if you're working as an independent, that's very difficult. I mean, I've been on my own as an entrepreneur for such a long time, I struggle with authority. It's like, I'm like, I've been doing this for almost like 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, why are you having a problem? This formula works.
Yes.
Right?
Ungangitsheli. Yeah.
But I mean, the humility that comes with that, and I think it must be, I think also theater is humbling. You know, it's different from television, right? Because whatever you do, you have a new audience every day.
Yes.
And they may react differently to different things.
Absolutely.
So
it teaches you not to be attached.
Yeah.
Right? Because one audience could absolutely be cheering and rooting and being loud and rambunctious in the theater. And then the next day you've got another audience that's just absolutely silent.
Yeah.
And you still have to put on the same one energy that you did.
That you did the last time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's this saying that you can't watch the same play twice. Right? So you can't perform in the same play twice.
Yeah.
So it teaches you being malleable and adapting and not being attached and
Did you see? Yeah, this is like, you know, the big English malleable. Like,
Hello.
That's why you must go to school.
Yes.
Go to school so that you can.
That's why we have degrees.
Mentoring the next generation, because I've seen, like, you know, that's something really important to you.
Yes.
I know when we sent the first poster, you were like, I want to see the educator there.
Yes.
So I'm just interested in what advice do you give to aspiring playwrights? Because I'm sure, or even actors, right, in theater. Because as we alluded to this earlier, is that a lot of assumption that people will have of you is that you are who you are or where you are because of your name. And how do you address it? I remember there was one time I was speaking to high school kids, right? So I was telling them, like, you know, because I teach kids how to code. I'm like, you must code. This is going to be good for you. I was like, you know, my daughter, she's like, you know, at the time she was 10. She's so smart. She's going to Atlanta. She'll be speaking at Microsoft. Then one of the kids raised their hands and she was like, yeah, of course your daughter will be good. She's your daughter. So we don't have that. And at that moment it was like, ooh, okay, let me start here. Let me tell you who I am. Let me tell you where I come from, you know. But I see, even now that I see that there's a kind of, you know, that my kids will have to live with for the rest of their life.
They
no
will.
matter how good they are.
They will.
It will always be, of course, you know, of course you're good. Yeah, of course.
But what people forget also is that it's not you doing the stuff.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I can come from my family, but it's not my father acting for me
you still
on
have
stage.
to do the work.
It's not him writing my plays.
Exactly.
It's not him. So the work will eventually speak for itself. They will say a whole lot of stuff, but eventually your work speaks for you. I think I've been very fortunate, and I don't take my responsibilities as an acting teacher lightly. I remember when I was in varsity, there was another lady who was teaching us, and I admired her so much. And I remember going to her and asking, like, I don't know if outside you could kind of maybe, you know, play like big sister role nyana or mentorship nyana. And I remember her very kind of looking at me like, no. And I was broken. And I thought, oh, okay. And it threw me off because I expected guidance. You know, I had all these aspirations and all this passion bursting out of me. But there are things I didn't know that I was hoping someone could help me understand about the industry and what it takes to have a long career and to be respected and you know bengingathi ngimnikeze a full-time job, you know, but even if nje singakhuluma 15 minutes nje, you know, just to kind of get that, I didn't get that. And one thing I always tell my students is that I want to be that for them. It's important to be able to have a sounding board. It's important to have people that you can go back to and say, listen, like, for example, Monacheng Motsabi for me has become that. He's a playwright, he's a director. He used to act, he doesn't act anymore. but he's like an unspoken mentor to me. You know, I respect his work. I respect his work ethic. And sometimes when I've got like emails asking me about rates or certain things or certain conditions, I email him and I give him a call and I'm like, yo, this is what I'm being asked to do. What would you advise? Or, you know, and it helps to just have the other voice make suggestions or hear you out. Or maybe I made a mistake and I spoke to somebody in a particular way and I feel like, I shouldn't have, you know, when I was younger. You know, there are things that you don't understand. And then someone can pull you to the side and say, I understand this is how you feel about this particular person. But don't forget that, like, your longevity in this in this industry needs to last, right? So in as much as you can feel certain things about people, remember not to be personal about it, right? Because Oksalayo, this is a working environment. And so
it's about relationships,
and
it's
definitely about building
and you don't know what's
relationships.
going to happen. This person could be
Absolutely.
aqala namhlanje,
Literally.
somehow umoya ongcwele ufike, the next
And
day
then
they're
ikusasa-
flying like Elisha or whatever.
You understand what I mean? No, absolutely, absolutely.
And you need that person.
You do.
Yeah,
Yet 10 years ago, naself,
Yeah,
bekakhuluma nonsense.
Yeah,
now.
but-
You know what I mean? And I think I was having this conversation actually earlier.
Yeah.
But it is about that. It is about harnessing relationships. And so I tell my students constantly that, like, if you need to have a conversation, if you need to vent, if you want advice, and they come to me for that. I love being in a space where I can share my knowledge and experience in the craft. I love to teach. I love it. You know, like, I feel like there's a primary purpose in life and then there's a higher purpose.
Yeah.
My primary purpose is to be an actor, but my higher purpose is definitely to help develop young talent within the acting and you know, writing, I guess arts industry as a whole. I have a real passion for development, and I think getting the opportunity even to be Zwagala Festival director last year was very
I was going to be
big.
asking you about that as well.
My
to say,
goodness.
you know, what that felt like, because it's like, you know, I'm also very passionate about mentoring because, you know, as Black women in general, we'll talk about women of color, it's not easy for us to, you know, to make it anywhere because every room you walk in, you are deemed incompetent and until proven otherwise.
Yes.
And because, you know, you have to prove and constantly prove yourself and get your opponent to say, and you know it doesn't end, right? And it's so important that also with the next generation, and then you tell, because sometimes they think it's been easy. And I think also with the media, even now, you hear because of your success, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking to you. Most of the time, we don't hear the stories in between.
Right,
It's like
right.
what happened,
It's true.
the journey.
It's true.
And everybody is focusing on those people who succeeded. We don't celebrate the failures.
Yes.
When the failure is actually where you learn the most.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the most successful people,
Yeah.
I always say, are the ones who fail the most.
Absolutely.
Because you try the most.
Yes, they say failure is evidence of having tried.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you'll do 30 things, win one. Everybody focuses on that. You're like,
Yes,
yeah, guys,
yes.
it's like, you know what?
But uvuke uyi-standard bank angathi
Yeah,
sitawudwina.
it's
You're
like,
like,
oh, you know what? This
you have no clue.
You know, like instant success. You're like, oh, you know what? Instant success that took 20 years.
Yes. Yes. And there were moments when I wanted to give up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, you know, the advice you give then to aspiring directors, you know, after your experience in Zwagala.
Sure. Izwagala, I think, birthed a new kind of inspiration in me for the arts. You know, when you are traveling the country and watching people perform for you, and you are sitting under a tree, uhleli phansi, and someone is acting in their garden, uyabona ukuthi ama-props aphuma endlini.
Yes.
Instead of itafula, they have a can of paint.
Yeah.
And an old like board that they got Gangeni somewhere, right? And it's scorching hot, but this person is performing like they have 1,000 people watching.
Wow.
I'm actually getting very emotional about it as I
Yeah,
rethink on those moments because it is so encouraging. It is so inspiring. and to be in a position where you are afforded an opportunity to give other people an opportunity to grow those plays and to say, oh my goodness, look at how much this person is giving. You know, abanye bebarehezele emikhukhwini yithi labo imvula ngapha ngani awuzwa mara sihleli kanje stage, you know, like, but the passion, the commitment and the dedication, my goodness, because part of what is supposed to be the prize of Zwagala is that you then get a run at the Market Theatre.
Wow.
I myself am a product of Zwagala Festival.
Wow.
I entered it. So
Wow.
to finally have found myself, I entered, we won, we had a show at the Market. Then years later, 7 years later, to be the festival director. So humbling, you know, for my own journey, but also to be able then to be able to engage with people on their work, on new plays. What people don't know is like people enter with like 50 something plays, and they're all new. Can you imagine? And then from those, I had to choose 10, 8, and then from the 8, 4, and then 4, then 1 wins. So there's tons of work that is just waiting to be discovered, to be worked on,
To be given a platform.
to be given a platform, right?
Yeah.
Because once then we choose those top 10, I then as the festival director take them through writing, directing, acting, facilitation workshops, right? And script writing. So it's a lot. Back in the day when there was a lot more money in Zwagala, they would appoint field workers. And then so you'd have different field workers working on different shows. So unfortunately, where we are right now, last year I was the one responsible for that. So, but being able to have that exchange.
Zizikoto yezo izwakala inamali.
Lalela, hayibo, sicela imali, Nkosi yami. And it's such an important program, you know? So I was very humbled by that process, and I'm so excited for the future of theatre. But we need money. Bishem. We need money. People need money in order to rehearse. People need money in order to buy the props and the things that they need, right? A lot of the time when you are indie, you are sourcing from your house. Ubaba wami ubekwata njalo ngilanda izinto endlini lapha ugogo wami I need this for costume. Asi costume ke diaparo tsaka. You know? But like that's where we start. Tapa yonke into. And then you're like, yo, kana ke isile ko Tembisa, right? But that's part of that independent theatre process. But it's really rewarding. And when you see the play that won, for example, the one that won last year, Blacksmith, it then got its professional run this year in October. Wow. So I'm very excited to see what this year's festival director is going to do and which shows are going to be chosen. But development programs are probably way more important than giving seasoned productions runs. We need the constant process of unearthing new talent, new writers, new directors, new producers, new stage managers, lighting designers, sound designers. It's so important because it's what's going to keep our industry going.
Exactly. And I think if we don't have that, especially in areas that is not like in Johannesburg or Cape Town or even Durban, you find, I mean, I'm from Mpumalanga, so we had the Witbank Theatre, right?
Yes.
The Civic Theatre.
Yes.
And then it was run down at some point. It's like, you know, and you're thinking, and those, nothing is happening that should be happening there because the funding is not there.
It's not
and
there.
we need diversity. And coming back to my next question to you, how do you think the landscape of South African theatre is changing in terms of diversity and representation? Because I think for me, most of the time, most of the plays I see, I don't think there's enough black representation, even though we are a majority black country. And it's purely because we don't teach theatre or acting or drama in our schools, in our township schools.
No, we don't.
And the opportunities would be like in your Zwagalas, which should be then have more investment because those are the ones that will unearth the next momos, right? And like, so what do you think and what do you think needs to change?
I don't think there's enough of us doing different things, right? So we're not necessarily very diverse. I think there aren't enough opportunities for all of us. So it almost seems like now my friends and I would be like, Chomi, it's your time. It's your time, you know? But like, I wasn't the only person who's been working towards this in my career, right?
Yeah.
So it feels like also when it comes to mainstream institutions, there's always a concern for audience. So when we're looking at mainstream, so if like a theater like the Market Theater, right, there's constantly kind of a hyper awareness of who's going to be coming to the shows, who is the show for, right? And I think it also changes according to who the artistic director is.
Yeah.
Right. So now we are experiencing kind of a different wave of shows at the Market Theatre because there's a new artistic director. Right. At the Soweto Theatre, I think for the longest time, after the last female artistic director of the Soweto Theatre, we've just been experiencing a lot of like concerts and stand-up comedy shows, right? But there's other programs like Ditomo, which is like young, like theater for young audiences. I think it takes someone who understands what the value of diversity means for an institution, right?
And the work it takes, because sometimes is that if there's nothing that is representative of me, I'm not gonna go.
Absolutely.
But also, if we are not promoting it, you know, we promote music everywhere. We promote, you know, TV. Like when there's a new show, you're all over the, you know, the radio and television. You've got billboards, but not so much about theater. And then it becomes like that, you know. I don't know, like, you know, uskoni lo oshate the not favorite uncle in the house.
It's literally like being the adopted child in a family.
Yeah.
That nobody kind of like knows what to do with you.
Yeah.
You know? And even when you explain to people like asuti bafeting ne show lapha oh ite tane oh isa yazi last show le ngayibukela bekuyi Sarafina ngo 19 sibani, like people still think of theater as like protest only, right? They don't understand that it's evolved from a very protest space.
I mean, we have evolved as a society.
Right? So obviously the theater we're creating is no longer rooted in that space. But also I feel like there isn't an urgency to engage with it. And I also feel like people don't know what to expect. To be quite honest, I think people would rather pay 300 rands to go watch a stand-up comedy show because they know what to expect. But if it's like there's a play at the play, firstly they need to understand what that thing is. Okay, sketch, okay, sharp, and then imnandi. Like there's still doubt of the product. Will I be fulfilled? Then yo, I'm 150. Imagine 150. Marahaba mindy. Khonwa straight is 400. Understand? But it's because you're not quite making the connection with what the experience. So I feel like people don't know what to expect when they get to a theater.
It comes back to education, right? Because also when you talk about art, initially if somebody says to me art, I'm thinking painting, draw, right? And for us, I'm talking about like most of us who didn't grow in those sort of, you know, environment. I mean, you can see theater, also the audience, yabona, you can tell they understand what's going on, and then
but there's so many of us,
and it's fun. But the point is that, and we know it's not that. It's because of what is not being done to actually educate and make it accessible.
It's definitely not accessible.
Unless we do enough in schools, right? And then for kids to be able to take part in those shows. If your kids go to the good schools, like I mean, obviously, if you had a drama in your school, you went to the good school.
Sure.
You know, the good schools, there's drama, there's art. So they already use every time nasiyaglama concert lastilanga lonke. We be watching abantwana bethu yabona nje njengabo abobaba kaJesu. So they grow up they grow up with the love and the appreciation of that.
And they understand the worth of it.
The worth of it and the hard work that comes with it, right?
But then there's schools where the teachers who are teaching arts and culture have no clue about what they're doing. right? And that like drawing a painting of your house, we're not saying that's not art, but that's probably as far as it goes,
Let's
right?
watch a movie.
Let's watch a movie, but also how do we engage with that movie afterwards?
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. It is about, but also if the school system doesn't acknowledge art as an important tool that helps children, even if your child is not going to be an actor, right? Just engaging with public speaking, gaining the confidence to be around people, knowing how to express yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Those are the skills that one can get from art. And schools have probably become our biggest markets.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yes.
then I remember when we did Animal Farm, it was part of a syllabus.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
we got to perform for all these schools because the kids were studying it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So many artists have kind of found that gap. Ukuthi asenzeni ikeshi that kids are doing that they're studying at school, and then since I need to say Macbeth, okay, then my production company does Macbeth, or what's the most popular one that they're doing now? My Children, My Africa, right? And then we travel and go to all the schools and then perform My Children, My Africa. But as a commercial industry, as that's we are far. We are far from that.
What are your future aspirations, my dear? I want outside of theater.
Yes.
How do you, how do you see your life
Yes.
evolving from now?
Ngiyahamba. Bye-bye, Mzansi.
Yay. I'm gonna drink to that.
Let's drink to that.
Yay.
Listen, we're celebrating my road to Hollywood. I'm definitely envisioning myself performing in Europe, writing and teaching overseas. One of my biggest dreams is to have the Matsunyane Academy of Arts.
Wow, that's nice.
I definitely want to build that at home. But in definitely, maybe, God willing, like 10, 15 years to come, where like once I've established myself really and have amassed a whole bunch of wealth, and I can start.
I'm gonna stop you there.
Is that too long?
No, we've already spoken about that, right? You need to speak it. And you don't have to get to that point for you to actually be able. Because I think sometimes when, writing your vision, right?
Right.
For me, is very important.
Yes.
I always write it down.
I do too.
That's
I
the
do too.
first-
I write
good.
it and then I do my
Secondly,
vision board. Yeah.
nobody is good enough or better than you. They are good at what they do.
Right.
So you are good at what you do.
Right.
And if you're not competing with anybody or just competing with yourself, you know what? I want to be better than I was yesterday.
Right.
And that's important, that self-education that you constantly have to do, right? And 3, you don't have to wait until you are 40 or 45. So go to menopause. Let me tell you, uzoshaya ama-hot flashes zonke lezi zinto ofuna uzenza it won't, you know what I mean? So my point is, if it's your vision, you need to start working on it, and you work on it now.
Right.
Because sometimes I always say, you know what, we look at our vision and say, oh, this is big, the Matsunyane, I'm probably going to need a building. It may cost this much.
Yeah.
And the problem is you're looking at yourself. I don't know if you believe in God or you believe in whatever you believe
Yes,
in.
I do.
For me, when I want to do something, I don't look at myself and say, hey, Lindiwe. I'm like, okay, this is big, but my God is bigger. So if I'm looking at it from the perspective of, what God has in store for me, then I know that I'm looking at my dream with my limited exposure, limited vision, over and above what God sees in me. So if I have that dream, I just do it. If I crash and burn, I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm sure you had something better. And most of the time, there is something better.
That's true.
So I'm stopping you there. I don't want to hear in 20. If that's what you want to do,
Okay, I won't
you
put
start
numbers
working
to it.
on it now.
I won't put numbers to it. I will thank you for that.
And sometimes I always say, you must never, it's in the Bible as well, never underestimate the power of small beginnings.
Right.
So it may start being Matsunyane afundisa abantwana balindiwe by 2, and then, if you watch that show, The School of Rock, that guy
Yes,
afundisa
yes,
abantwana
yes,
labegcina
yes,
abantwana,
yes.
oh, this is a D.
Yeah.
You could start there, but then eventually
It'll
it
become
becomes
something
big.
else.
So you should not limit yourself. You must start it now.
I'm with
Start
you.
where you are and make an impact and do that influence with where God has placed you right now. You already have a huge platform, my dear. You're already a I don't know if you see what I see, but I believe that you're gonna get there, and you just have to. You just have
I
to.
will.
You just have to do it, and it may not be as far ahead. You know,
As I think
it may
is.
be.
I think
closer
maybe
than you
because
think.
naming safuna actor,
Yes.
safuna ba movie star Hollywood
Yeah, Tyler Perry the shit out of
you
this
understand what I
and
mean?
just do
And then just
everything.
do it. You're right. You're right.
Exactly.
You're right. You're right. But that's where. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I think I needed to hear that because there was a sense of like perhaps doing it much later in my life once I fulfilled the actor in me, right? But I take it and I hear you and I thank you for that. But I definitely do Broadway. Hlakanyana is going to Broadway. We're going to the West End.
Amazing.
Hollywood. We are going to Britain. I'm going to do a lot of work in France. I was fortunate enough to direct a show there last year. And I kumnandi man. Kumnandi man. Kumnandi. And the support is there. The support is there as you're, as a creative, as a director. I had the least problematic technical rehearsal in my life when I was in France. I was like, why am I takeaway to South Africa?
Load shedding.
Because there's that. There's that, right? But there's a lot. I'm publishing my plays.
Nice.
That I'm doing this year.
Wow.
But I do look forward to achieving a lot more of my playwright, my teaching, my acting dreams, and singing. I'm a singer.
Oh wow.
I'm a singer.
Me too.
So you must sing.
No,
I used to
Mara
have a band and everything. I did about 5 live shows.
Wow.
And now it's time for me to go into studio and actually just freaking sing.
My final question for you is: what is your message for the next generation, and also, what do you want your legacy to be? Because I think sometimes people say they dare to ask. I feel like you have to speak what you want to become, right? And at the end of the day, if like the story is to write the stories. What story do you want others to write about you? And also, what cocktail do you think would represent that? And it can't be Long Island.
No, it
again,
can't.
So it has to be. What ingredients do you think should be there? What represent the future MoMo?
I'll start with the advice, I think. I think I would say to young people, I think if your dreams don't scare you and excite you, you're probably not dreaming big enough. And don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. I think a lot of what has propelled me in my own career have been things that I was terrified to do. But doing it grew me as an artist and in my hunger to succeed and grow, I would say don't be scared to ask for help. Don't be scared to ask for help. If it feels uncomfortable, don't do it.
Yeah.
And you can always ask for more money.
Ladies,
you can definitely
yes.
always ask for more money. Don't be scared to do that. Respect the people that you work with, whether it's the lady who cleans your dressing room, to the gentleman who's fixing the light, to the lady who's doing your makeup, to the director, to the producers. Have genuine respect for everybody that you work with. Because we in the kind of industry where our names are spoken about at parties, at tables, and people go, "Askastenu momo," and just from that suggestion, how people respond says a lot about you.
Yes.
So keep that in mind. You don't have to like everybody, but respect them. Respect them and have respect for your work. Don't go to work drunk. Be diligent, have a great work ethic, be easy to work with, stand your ground, but be easy to work with. It's so nice to work with people who know how to work with others.
Yeah.
This industry is not an individualistic industry.
Yeah.
So when you do something and I'm a part of it, I'm growing just as much as you are growing.
Yeah.
It's a shared experience. So be mindful of oneself in a group dynamic, in a group situation. And love what you do. And the day you stop being nervous, take a break and go on holiday. I would then say my legacy. I think many years from now, when I've left this earth, God willing, I want to leave behind, firstly, an institution that will continue to offer an opportunity for young people to study and to grow their craft. I hope my school will be free.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to pay to attend the Matsunyane Academy of Arts. I hope that I will be remembered as someone who poured their passion into everything that they did, and who was an example of what it means to fight for your dreams, and to never give up, and to genuinely believe in yourself. I used to think I believed in myself until I really had to. When the validation was not coming from anybody, and it needed to come from within.
Yeah.
I hope my legacy inspires younger people to live also passionately, fully. And to fight, man. Fight for your worth, fight for your dream.
Yeah.
I've fought.
You're worth fighting
To
for.
get
And
here.
if you can't fight for yourself, then nobody will.
Nobody will.
Yeah.
People take the cue from you,
Yeah.
you know? Just
Yeah.
like our parents.
Yeah.
Like, we teach our parents how to treat us.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
so you as you grow, you realize that you dictate how other people treat you in this world.
Yeah.
But I want to be remembered as someone who really, really loved what they did, and dedicated their entire life to helping others also realize their dream and their potential through the arts, because I believe in arts as a tool for social change.
Yeah.
And that should never be undermined.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Cocktail?
Cocktail?
Now we're being emotional now.
Zaza.
I'm like, ooh, they found
Right?
cocktail. So what cocktail?
Something that has a salted rim. I'm thinking like a salty.
All cocktails should have a cocktail rim, but our
They
cocktail guy is
should.
not putting the salt.
He should be fired.
I'm firing you. See, you're fired.
Something salty, something with some tequila and a little bit of Hennessy and like a squeeze of lemon and lots of ice. I don't know what
think
we
you and I
call
should be
it.
best friends. As soon as you mention Hennessy, I love Hennessy. I'm like,
Then the next cocktail.
I'm like Tupac. I'm like, ooh, drinking Hennessy.
Yes,
Hennessy.
that cocktail. I don't know what it's called, but we'll call it the MoMo.
The MoMo. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Such an inspiration, and I can't wait to just have as many young people to see this. Actually, this is one of the episodes. The schools are opening that we're going to be sending to all our kids.
Yay!
You know, for them to be able to see it, because it's so important. You know, I think what I love talking to you is the importance of understanding that it's important to love yourself. Because the way you see yourself is really how the world is going to see you.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to always get the validation.
No.
And most of the time, you need to learn to encourage yourself when there's nobody to encourage you. And that strength comes from within. You're never going to get it from anywhere. Like if you're going through something, a pep talk, and because I don't want to hear it. And at that time, the only person who can really get yourself from the pit or wherever you are is you. And your faith and whatever that is, right? Yeah. And it's so important to have that. So thank you. As young as you are like 35 going on 95.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I had an amazing time.